Good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Experience. I'm Nora Yolis Young, and today we have Veronica Drake on the show. Welcome, Veronica.
Hey, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you all are.
Whatever time of day you all are watching. And so I wanted to read a little bit about Veronica. She has a wonderful bio, and it starts out with inner badass, which is just sort of like boom right there in your face. And so Veronica is a medium, but she's also a spiritual coach. And how do you describe your coaching,
I'm a soul coach. I work with soul energy. I'm really big on soul retrievals, finding all pieces of yourself.
Oh, cool. Oh, I'm going to want to hear more about that. Okay, so how she defines inner badass. An inner badass is the piece inside all of us that sparks creativity, longs for freedom, seeks peace, desires commitment, speaks truth, shouts boundaries, and embraces what is and ferociously loves unconditionally. That is so well stated. And so she grew up at the intersection of mental illness and alcoholism. That's like, we obviously need to explore that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were born in 1962, the original start date. And she was the first child born to a 17-year-old mother and a 21-year-old father. And he would become an alcoholic, and mom would have full-blown mental illness very quickly soon thereafter. And life for you sounds like it was chaotic and lonely. There was so much dysfunction that it seemed impossible to even write at all. I guess what you're writing here. And then, so she's summarizing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was very chaotic. I can attest to that.
I was a witness.
Yeah.
So we can talk about some of the stuff that went on. You were unloved, scared, lonely, abandoned, kidnapped, date raped, depressed, lied to, felt a lot of guilt and shame, and up until 1996, this was a lot of negativity going on. And so in November of 1996, there was a suicide attempt. And during that, the act of you were going to take your life driving in your car. And at that moment, you were screaming, F you. And then, lo and behold, you receive grace. Like, you have spirit beings coming into your vehicle, and you're saved. You're saved from ending your life. And it's from that point that Veronica started her journey in spiritual awakening and started to have more opening beyond the veil. And I mean, that is an amazing story. So wherever you want to start with that, but I think my audience would be very curious to know, because these are very human themes, and these are also things that people are straddling right now. They're coming from places of trauma and pain and suffering, and maybe just starting their awakening, or not quite there, or maybe have been on the road to their awakening and having their spiritual gifts start to emerge. So I'm really so excited that you're here and you get to share with us. And if any of you have seen Veronica work, she is amazing. She works with the Channeling Erik group with Elisa Medhus, and she channels Erik, and they do Enlightenment Radio. They do, what are the other ones? There's Enlightenment Radio, there's her weekly show, and then there's another one that I forget. It'll come to me. But you do sessions with people that you can schedule on your website. So you're available, and you're growing. So
Yeah.
What were you going to say, hon?
Prior to coming on board with Channeling Erik, I was running a very successful intuitive mediumship practice, and what I realized was that I had been in the trenches for so many years to prepare for this exact moment. Because while I was successful in worldly ways with my practice, it got tenfold when I met Elisa and Erik, and it has just blown wide open. Like, it has come full circle. Overnight success was, 7 years, 10 years in the making. So I'm just honored to be able to serve as many people and help as many people as I do with
That's so
Erik.
awesome. And I wanna hear more about that. I want to backtrack though a little bit to the origination, your start date. You were born in the early 1960s. My husband was born around then, and you had young parents.
I did.
And so that showed up with, as you mentioned, but go ahead and start there.
So it was let me preface it with, I didn't realize until 1996 why everything happened. So for those people who are watching who might be going through some of these things, just understand that you might not understand at this moment, but there is total purpose and reason for it. So I was very much alone growing up. I had a brother, a younger brother, but we were isolated in the sense that we got dropped off at grandparents' house who lived in the middle of nowhere, and there really wasn't anything to do. And so with that, I became very creative. I was the kid that was the oddball, goofball, talking to herself, but really just hearing things and understanding that, listen, there's more than this. When you are a product of any trauma situation like that, you can find a place to keep safe, and you go to that place. And for me, it was, talking to myself, and I use air quotes because I wasn't really talking to myself. I could really hear and feel things back. And so early on, I understood that I was different, and I didn't quite know what different was. I just knew I didn't march to everybody else's drum.
Like, not other people were behaving in the same way as you.
Right. And one of the things you get really good at when you're the product of that environment is, hiding things. And so I was given, or chose, if you will, this dynamic personality where, you'll know me as much as I'll let you know me. And then when you get too close to me, I'll deflect with humor because I am funny as hell, FYI. And so I developed that skill set, but it served me well, and people have said to me, my husband is amazed that everywhere we go, people want to be with me. He's like, you're like the Pied Piper. People just want to flock to me. And I love people, I really do. But my best time is in seclusion with myself, with my angels, with my guides. And so I'm really most comfortable doing that kind of thing.
So let me ask you this. Like a lot of light workers, people can get overwhelmed a lot. Do you feel like your retreat time is to balance out how sensitive you are?
I'll tell you what, as I opened up with, it was a very good thing that I had a practice that was already successful, because I had done all of the legwork. I had done all of the self-work, understanding there's no way that I'm going to stress myself out. There's no way that I'm going to, put myself in situations, because I've learned how to honor and love myself enough to protect myself from that. So you learn, because I've been doing it lifelong, you learn how to turn it on and turn it off. I can be out somewhere in the grocery store or just walking along the streets. I live very close to New York, and we'll go to the city and walk, and you got to learn to turn that off. In the grocery store, like, people come at you, and it's like, I can feel things, and then I just get this overwhelming sense of compassion, or I get the heebie-jeebies, or, but I can just say, I'm going to turn this off, and I do. And it literally turns off for me.
Was there a period in your life where maybe when after your awakening or that experience in the car, where you were getting your sea legs, as it were. Tell me a little bit more about that process, because you talk about the suicide attempt, and now you're here in this pretty highly actualized, potentiated state. Like, what about the messy middle?
Yeah. Great question, because it certainly was a messy middle. I'll be honest. I'm very honest and transparent with my story. I got a little cocky. I got a little egotistical. The ego took over and said, geez, you've got all this information, and I started to get overly confident in what I was able to do. And so I started.
How would that show up?
I'm sorry?
How would that show up for you? Like, for people who may be going through that.
Aloofness, standoffishness, arrogance, kind of like, shaking the finger, you should know better, kind of indignant. But, that, as I now know, that all comes from my background. I'm a product of what I'm a product of, but I'm also a product of a father who doesn't believe that women should have rights. They should be in the kitchen and pregnant and and I call him Fred Flintstone. So I grew up challenged with that also. And to this day, still believes that. And I'm a very successful, thriving businesswoman who is self-made. And, he doesn't know how to deal with that. So I think I got into that mode of messy because I was proving a point. Initially, I was proving my self-worth. I was trying to prove my self-worth. But I think I was really trying to prove to my father, I'm not going to be.
It's like, look, see? And at a certain point, do you feel like you had to just reconcile that fact of, like, maybe he's never going to change and I still have to be who I am?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I got to this place, 1996, 97. I was a voracious, and still am, reader. I couldn't get my hands on enough stuff. And of course, in 1996, we didn't have at our fingertips everything we have now. So I had a library of spiritual evolution books and Marianne Williamson and Wayne Dyer and Carolyn Mace. And all the gurus, I immersed myself in that. And I just, it felt like I was home. It was like, oh my God, these people get me. Because no one really got me. Like, I can remember when I managed a dental office. It was a huge practice, and I was the office manager, and I would cover my desk with quotes. And back in the day, I had to cut them out, and we didn't print them out on the internet, but I would cover my desk with quotes, and I couldn't understand why I had such an affinity for quotes. But these quotes were telling me where my life was going and how I would get there. And it was just this, wow. But I go along the path, 96, 97, 98, I'm holding my own, I'm kind of still learning, 99, I'm still learning. And 2000, I just took a plunge. I fell back down. I started to deteriorate, skill sets weren't so good. I became very despondent, very depressed. I had sought a divorce from my first husband. So all this life stuff was falling apart. And I went back down in a big way. I got very depressed. And with a bipolar, schizophrenic mother, I was terrified that I was coming up on some sort of mental illness. I think I was 40 at the time. As it would be now, because hindsight's 2020, it wasn't a severe mental illness at all. It was really part of the spiritual awakening and part of the dark night of the soul, if you will.
Right. So do you see your dark night of the soul as an essential, it sounds like you're saying that, but an essential part of who you are now? Or it may be a part of the process of of understanding, like maybe grappling with how you see the world, how it's shifting.
I do believe that it's part of the process, and I don't know necessarily that everyone would label it Dark Night of the Soul, but it is, and we all experience it. Where we go from that point and how we bring ourselves up out of this hole is what differentiates, the spiritual from the, the not spiritual, because I used spiritual tools to climb up out of the hole. I can remember too, in that time frame, I got very holy roller, I call it. I learned the Bible. I knew how to work the Bible. And I thought at that time, I had people telling me, you better find God. You better find, oh my God, I better find God. I wasn't raised with God. So I didn't know if a lightning bolt was going to strike me or what was going to be. I just knew that God sent his angels in my car in November 1996. Right. So he must love me. And so I found God in a very arrogant, egotistical way. And I used it against people, I'm ashamed to say, but I did. And that was all part of the descent. I got on my high horse and I preached, and then I went, oh, I can't live up to this. What am I doing? I've built my whole platform on this, and I don't like it. It doesn't work for me.
Well, you were trying it on for size,
I did.
Yeah.
But as early on as I can remember, people, as I said earlier, the Pied Piper, I had this desire to do what I do, okay? And I just put a flyer out and said, I'm going to host a group in my kitchen, and it's going to be called the Ladybugs, and the only requirement is no male bashing. Women cannot get together. We cannot bash our males. We must get together for a very positive, uplifting.
How awesome is that?
So the ladybugs, and the reason ladybugs is because when I was growing up, I was afraid of everything except ladybugs. They were very comforting, reassuring, and still when I see them, I know that there's meaning to them, and so I'm still comforted by them. So I started this group, the Ladybugs, and this was about right on the cusp of maybe 98, 99. And it started with like 5, 6, 7 women in my kitchen, and that was great. And it went on. I had it once a month. It went on for 6 months, 8 months. And I got up to over 40 some women in my kitchen. And what I did, part of my descent back down, was I do what I typically did with self-sabotage. I shot myself in the foot. And I got fearful, and I said, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't know anything. I can't do this. And I disbanded the Ladybugs.
Wow. So that self-sabotage, that voice of doubt came from within you, totally?
Wow. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Interesting.
Because we're programmed.
Well, we can find it externally, or like someone could say, because people will say, what makes you think you can do that? But often it does come from within us.
But you know what? I've also learned that I'm fascinated with the brain. I'm fascinated with neuroplasticity and how the brain can actually, they're showing scientifically, change. And so when we're told something, we come in very pure. But as we grow, right away, oh, she's a girl, call her Susie, give her a pink bow. It's Bobby, give him a blue, a
baseball cap and some...
Right. And so we have labels, and then our parents begin to give us, or our caregivers begin to give us their interpretation of the world. And my parents both terrified of the world. Terrified. And so I was scared of everything. Everything.
So interesting, because you seem so fearless now. That is so cool, though. Would you say, where are you on the fear spectrum? Not the fear spectrum, because that is actually, I am a hypnotherapist, so I do work with people's perceptions, and so I'm curious, like, where would you say you are, like on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh gosh, I would say, because of conscious effort, I probably am an 8 or a 9.
Fantastic.
Yeah, listen, my husband would laugh and joke with me because he would say, oh, there's her shadow, watch out, she's gonna get scared, and it was true. Listen, I did not merge on the highway until I was in my 30s because my father said, don't drive on the highway. You'll get killed. It's not safe to drive on the highway.
Oh my gosh, that's helpful.
Right? Right? And so in his twisted mind, he's keeping me safe. But guess what? I was like, what do you mean? Like I wanted to fight it.
I gotta merge.
Well, a funny story. What got me to merge, I worked with this girl. I love her to this day. Her name is Maria. She was in labor at a hospital where you could only get to it if you merged, and her husband was out of town on business. She had no family here in the area. I needed to merge. We still laugh all these years later. I needed to merge to get to Maria. And so while I didn't value me enough to merge, I valued Maria and my friendship enough to merge.
But once you merged, it's like, I can do this.
I'm a superstar.
Yeah.
I'm the queen of, I'm like so nonchalant when I merge.
I got this down. Well, I think what's really...
I'm merging.
Let's high five on that one.
Yeah.
So,
there we go, in the camera.
But one of the things that I'm really excited that you're talking about is fear and how you personally have found ways to move through it, because I see fear as such a crippling element on the planet. People are so paralyzed by fear, and it's everywhere. I mean, it's promoted, it's emphasized, and I think it's not serving anyone, really. But I mean, there's no hurry. Ultimately, people can go at their own pace. But as far as, if anybody who's watching this is listening and they're feeling afraid of accessing their greater gifts or the aspects of themselves that they know are there, but they're just feeling this blockage, I do encourage you to go seek help for that. And on any level, and if any of these are ringing a bell, contact me, contact Veronica, but reach out. You don't have to live in a place of paralysis. There is something beyond this. This is, and I'm wondering if you would agree that if what's beyond that is really what is what you're here to do, is about your adventure here on the planet.
Totally. Listen, we have to know opposites.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if I was completely came in confident and I wasn't scared of anything, and there has to be something to show me the opposite. And so I believe that we need to have the whole gamut. We need to experience everything. Now, I will say this, the sensationalism that is blown up in this world with the media and everybody's looking for something to be afraid of. And here's the thing, if you want to be afraid of something, be afraid of never knowing and loving who you were created to be.
Amen.
Because that should scare you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to live our lives. And I think that that's definitely something that I'm seeing. I'm also seeing a lot of people who are afraid of dying, which is one of my favorite things to work with, because once they're able to connect with their higher self, it's like, yes, they get to see who they really are.
Yeah.
But how about you? What are you seeing? Are you seeing any trends in your work?
You know what? I do. Primarily, I work with women who are stuck. That's the best word they come to me with. I'm stuck. Mm-hmm. Something's missing. Mm-hmm. Something feels off. And the biggest question I can put out there, do you have a question for me? And 100 times over, I will get, what's my purpose? Why am I here? Because inherently, we know there's more. Our soul knows there's more, but we don't know how to get at it. That's why it was so important to me when I created my practice. I took a lot of care and effort not to be pegged as woo-woo and crazy and boiling chicken bones and shrinking heads in the backyard. I wanted to be very mainstream with what this is. Because there's no reason to fear it. And listen, fear is why people doubt it.
So tell me why you made that choice, because I'm sure that is something that many healers who are starting out, or mediums, whatever it is in the metaphysical realm, like, how do you find your voice in a way that is resonant with you? What told you to be less woo-woo?
Well, I'll tell you, and sometimes woo-woo works for people. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with. And I have listen, somebody said to me, oh, I'm a witch. And, I'm not going to freak out. I'm totally cool with whatever you are. Shaman, I'm working with a shaman now. I mean, whatever you are. For me personally, it has always been important to me to be able to validate and prove things. I am a science-based person who just happens to be a brilliant psychic and medium.
and amen to that, because people who go to mediums really do want the evidence. You know, they want evidence, and that's exciting. They want proof, so that absolutely works.
And I always try to give at least 3 levels of proof, 3 ways that I can validate for people. I try to give the age that they passed. I try to give the reason they passed, and I try to give their profession that they had while they were here. So those 3 things are, I ask the spirit to work with me so that I can earn trust. And because, listen, there are a lot of people out there. Let me back up and say this right. People come to me because they're very sad. They're very despondent. They don't. I'm usually their last hope. Okay.
So they're like coming to you for a spiritual answer to something that they haven't had any sort of practical earth world application. Gotcha.
Absolutely. And also grief stricken for people who've crossed over, so I get a lot of that when they come at me. And it's so important right out the gate for me to earn trust. Because here's the reason why. Once you trust me, and I've earned that trust, guess what? Energy flows much freer. It's not trapped up. It's not low vibrating. Trust is a very high vibrating emotion. And so if you and I are doing a session, and I do it all over the world, we can be doing it like this. If I earn your trust right away, boom, your vibration's up, mine's up, and we're going to meet the spirit at a very high level because we're both up there.
True.
And people who are skeptics, I've had people book with me and cancel their appointments because, they just say they're not ready. And I totally respect that, because if you're coming to me and you're skeptical, that's not going to do either one of us any good. So totally back out. I'm cool with that.
Right. That's really awesome that you say that. And I agree too. I think that we're in a time in our society where there are things that aren't necessarily provable by the scientific rigor, but that we're moving kind of in that direction. And here's something that you can actually give evidence to, which is very exciting. But still, there's this very common piece of the human experience in this current time where it's really frowned upon to have trust on that level, whether it be from a religious indoctrination point of view, or people who have a very strict, isolated view of science that does not include the non-physical realm, which I get. I mean, my father was a scientist, and I was raised in that kind of a family. But once people can trust, wow, I mean, the universe opens up, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the dynamic, like you're saying, but then you can just, you can see their life change in front of your eyes.
Absolutely.
The light that floods in.
And I just wish, too, that people would understand that life really is what you think it is. And it's not a bunch of mojo, and it's, that woo-woo-y stuff. It's really what you think it is. How you see the world really is how the world is.
Yeah.
So work on shaping what it is that you think about the world. Listen, I said earlier, I am fascinated with the brain. We only use, 10% of it, if that, at times. And I just think what they're proving, visually, what they're proving in science, that you don't even have to play the piano physically, touch the keys, to have the same effect that you get when you are given a handout with the directions of playing the piano. They proved it, the brain, by monitoring the brain. The person touching the keys and the person reading the book have the same brain expansion.
That's amazing. That is
It's
absolutely
huge.
amazing. And it opens up the realm of possibility to where we really can access that 90%. Because what else should we do with our time here but actualize our potential? It's like, I love getting people excited about that, like, what do you want to do now that you know that you can do this? What is it? But I want to hear your views on people who are really struggling right now in this time, who tend to be on the skeptical end of the spectrum and don't have that sense of trust in and faith in the spiritual dynamics that are going on. Do you ever talk to people like that?
Usually it's in my personal life, because if you're coming to me professionally and you're committed to me professionally, you're usually close to the level that, we're all on an even playing field.
Yeah, you're coming to a medium.
Right.
You're coming to a medium.
In my personal life, and I'll use a family example, because that's as personal as it gets, they really, most of them are accepting of it, but a few of them are scared of it because it's so out of the norm. And so my whole teaching with them is, what proof do you have that this doesn't work? I can show you time and time again how it works. And I do, and I give them proof, and it's validation and proof, and they're still skeptical. So my thought back to them is this: you're basing it on something that's old and no longer serves you. You're believing something that's not any longer going to help you or keep you safe. In fact, it's holding you back.
Right.
So that's what again, it goes back to the belief system.
Right. And I thank you for that. And I'm just curious, because I wonder this. I've had some mediumship training that's not my best forte, but what I'm curious about is if there's anyone on the other side that has any really powerful message that they want to get through, or wants to join this conversation or add something. I just want to open up the playing field to see if anybody wants to come through. I talk to Wayne Dyer a lot. He likes to communicate to me through recordings and stuff. But yeah, I'm just wondering. It's fine if no one's coming through. We have to talk.
It's very interesting, because at the beginning of our conversation, we sat down here, and it's kind of like, when it comes through for me, I can feel there's somebody in the room. Okay. And so I will acknowledge that there's somebody here. I'll ask them to patiently wait. And then when I feel it's appropriate, see, I'm multitasking. And you want to believe it or not, who came in the room was Benjamin Franklin.
Wow. Cool. I have the chills. That's so cool.
Yeah. And the message is, be innovative and creative with the energy that you are given in the moment. So his message is, while it might look like a mess, use the energy that you have in you to straighten it out, to sort it out. Now, energy is the power of thought, but more than that, it's the power of feeling. So feelings are energy. So he's saying feel. And I thought it was very cute that Benjamin Franklin would show up, with the whole energy thing. And
he comes from the innovator perspective. Yeah. So I think, to me, that feels like a very big honor. How amazing for both of. I think it has implications to both of us in the work that we do.
And see, I don't know why. I don't know who's going to show up. I don't know why they're going to show up, until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always relevant. I mean, I can be talking to somebody in my personal life and, I over here, it's like I can hear the voice of Elvis.
Uh-huh.
Or something, I'm just using as an example. And I'm able to go, okay, so I'm having this conversation and I'm hearing Elvis and I'm going, okay, so they're saying this, I'm paying attention. Elvis is representative of, and all of a sudden it's like this brilliance comes out of my mouth that has nothing to do with me because I'm being the channel, but I'm not saying, oh, hey, I'm channeling Elvis.
Right. Well, and I think that's how we are oftentimes. I think we haven't gotten to the stage of our evolution in our perception of consciousness where we understand that all thought is channeled. And that's my belief. Like, we are a sum of the universe. And so our vibration, it dictates what is coming through.
Yep, absolutely. 1,000,000%. I agree. 1,000,000%. Now, how do we make that mainstream?
Yeah. Ben, Mr. Franklin, any suggestions? You're very brilliant.
Get your kite out. No. He literally is saying that just by being in the trenches every day, and it's practice and it's failure and it's success, and then it's 6 more failures, and then it's 2 more successes, and it's really, that's all it is. It's trying and trying.
It's courage. It's that badassness, right?
Badassness. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
yes.
I wanted to say, another gal in the Joy Tribe, Carrie Walker from the Joyride show, she also, and I hope she's okay with me saying this, she also has a connection with Elvis. It would be cool for you guys to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. I never know who I'm going to get. And I'm excited to say that I just want to share this really quickly because this is how Channeling Erik, who's always with me, about a month before Charles Manson died, Erik came to me and said, get him on the agenda with my mom. And I'm like, all right, I'll email. So a month prior to his death, I emailed Elisa and I said, let's interview Manson. And she writes back, well, he's not dead. Well, I just kind of let it go. I didn't think of anything. So like 3 days before Manson died, Erik came back really adamant and said, we need to get Manson on the agenda. And I said, he's not dead. He goes, he will be in a couple of days. And then literally in 2 days, he died. I had chills. I'm like,
dude, Erik, that is so awesome. That is awesome. I love those interviews. Like I know that the Manson one is going to be epic, and I love I got so much out of the not the Howard Hughes, the Hugh Hefner. I felt like Hugh Hefner is like a homie. I never even knew. Like, I don't know, there's something about his energy that I was so excited about. I think it was that he was so curious. He had this insatiable curiosity, and I really resonate with that so much. And so what's next for you, Veronica? You have so much going on.
Oh my gosh, what's next for me? Well, Punta Cana in February.
What's that?
So professionally, there is a lot of stuff happening at veronicadrake.com. I'm putting more and more products out. My whole goal is to keep it simple, to educate, keep it extremely affordable, and free is affordable. And I'm also working on coming out with a membership for 2018. Okay. I haven't worked the details out yet with my team, but we're revealing some things. And when I say my team, I mean my angels and my guides. And so we're working on it.
It's so fun. I love that you consult with your guys, and I do too. I wish I had as clear of a channel as you. But what's cool about hypnosis is people get to have that even when they're not. So that's one of the
awesome
fun thing, that's one of the fun things. So I have just a curiosity question as a healer. I'm wondering, are you seeing relationships shifting, like partnerships shifting in your work?
It's funny because we are, and Erik and I just talked about this on one of our shows, we're coming into a shift of energy all the way around. We're stepping up the feminine energy. And so in relationships, there's more of an even plateau, if you will, of male energy, female energy. Where I find that relationships go off kilter is when one of the energies is more dominant. And so I work with women who are, I'm packing them in, I'm done with them. And I can intuitively see your contract's not up. You can tell me whatever you want, but I'm going to give you a little answer on how to make it work because it ain't going nowhere. And so we even out the energy. That's the only reason it gets off. I want my way. I want my way. That's an energy thing. And I also do numerology, so I do compatibility reports.
Oh, that's right. Well, yeah. So, yeah, everybody, Veronica also does really cool numerology. And, I'm glad you said that, and I agree with it. And I really like how when Erik lines up with some of the stuff that's going on that I'm seeing, I love that. And I'm seeing a lot of that in my practice as well. And I feel like relationships are shifting in a way that humanity is yet to kind of wrap their head around. Sexually, romantically, the platonic dynamics that are going on. And so, I mean, I think it's a new era, personally, for relationships in general, like how we relate to each other, how we relate to ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think, what I feel is happening, we're coming out of finally, hopefully very sooner than later, the sexual exploitation of women, where we're, again, leveling the playing field. And I think the male energy is getting more awakened, as the female energy gets stronger. So when one gets stronger, they both get stronger. And I think that, if we need a symbol of a woman in the White House, if that does it, that's fine. The right woman in the White House, that's fine. But it's the smaller things. It's the smaller steps, that we take as women, which begins within ourselves. And feeling the power in ourselves.
Yeah. Do you work with the energy of Mother Mary?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Mother Mary is my go-to girl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have big chills. I feel like I really feel a strong, really, it just seems like a tidal wave of compassion and love. And like in my mind, she's at the helm.
I am, at age 53, I'm 55 now, I chose to become Catholic. Now, y'all Catholics are going to hate me when I say this, but I a la carte it. Sorry. I take what I need, and the other stuff can just go away. But when it comes to saints and angels, there ain't no other religion that does it like the Catholics.
That is so cool. I had a powerful spiritual experience in a Catholic church in a little village in Spain. I mean, transformative. Just like, whoa, what was that? Yeah.
Jesus meets me there. Jesus comes to Mass. I agree to show up. Jesus agrees to show up. And I do channel the Christ energy as well as the mother. And it's just been mind-blowing.
Yeah, Jesus, it's funny because I have half Jewish side of the family and half, as my mom would say, pagan. And so Jesus was not at the forefront of my upbringing. It was actually kind of a negative connotation that I learned. And it wasn't until my adulthood when I became an energy healer where I started working with the Ascended Masters. And I was like, wait a second, Jesus, you're awesome. Like, thank you. What's so cool about the Ascended Masters, right, is like there's no lag time. They're just like on it.
Yeah, spot on.
And the energy is just so delicious and it's different. Like, that's so fun to play with. I would say that too. Like, if people are learning about their energy, play with the different Ascended Master energy.
Yeah.
And
you know what? Everybody's intuitive. There aren't select people. And it's not our second nature. It's our first nature.
Yeah.
We are naturally intuitive creatures.
Yes.
Go all the way back to early man. We had to have hunches, intuitiveness to eat, to live, to survive. And so we are naturally created this way. Stop suppressing it. Let it come out. And here's the reason. I'll give you the number one reason people don't listen or believe in their intuition, because then they'll have to do something that requires change.
Yeah, change is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yep.
You just
And
got to
so
find
that's
that
it.
inner badass. Just like Veronica teaches in her work, you got to find that inner badass. So, you know what question I love when Elisa does at the end of the show in her interviews? I love the question is is there what past lifetime, if any, it was most informative to your current lifetime when you're interviewing people who have passed on? And I'm wondering, do you have an awareness of a past lifetime that's influenced this lifetime?
Yes, I do.
I'd love to hear it.
I'm very outspoken. I'm very much an advocate for freedom. I will not be restrained in any way, shape, or form, obviously. And I can associate it with this life, but I can also associate it with it in a former life where I was a slave.
Oh.
So I had no sense of freedom. And I'm terrified of small spaces. I've worked through it, but I would get scared of small spaces when I had no reason to be. And just, I don't like being bound. Mm-hmm. Commitment was hard. Mm-hmm. Like anything, in this life, I had to work through it. So in my other life where I was a slave and I was traded and I was a commodity.
Here in this country?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. So I totally am all about the freedom. And any social injustice, I'm on my horse. I'm like Joan of Arc is also part of my energy. I'm a crusader. I'm awesome. On it.
That's awesome. And it's earned through the experience of lifetimes. And that's another point that I think is so cool about lifetimes. It's like you could be an African American woman or man, or do you know if you were male or female?
I was female.
And so that's why the whole race issue to me is like when you work with enough people in past lives, it's like, I mean, you're seeing people who are blue and purple and from different planets, and then the race thing just becomes this insane thing. So like last life you were a black woman, this life you're a white woman, and it's and people who are doing things with that kind of focus don't even recognize that they've been other colors too.
Yeah. I couldn't understand until I did this why oppression. Like I was always told. I started talking at 9 months old. I haven't shut up since. Okay. I don't
Thank goodness.
I get detention. I get put in the hall, and the joke's on you because I make money talking. But the reality is, it was all about oppression. Don't tell me what to say. Don't tell me how to say it. Don't tell me. And for the first, are you ready? For the first 38 years of my life, I lived oppressed in this life. Yeah. Believing all of those stories. You can't drive on the highway. Women aren't smart enough. I didn't go to college because literally, you're not smart enough to go to college.
No way. Really?
But the reality was that was his crap, because he didn't know how to help me go to college, because he was basically uneducated and very backwoods and didn't know how to help me go to college.
Right. The oppression of the mind, like, don't believe the hype. I think, people who are hearing this, if this resonates with you, like, no one needs to tell you that you can be successful in life. You get to decide your success.
Absolutely.
And you've done a marvelous job, my dear. And we just have a couple minutes left, and so I want to give you the opportunity to share any last thoughts, if you have any, to share, like, offer your wonderful wisdom.
One of the things I really am adamant about and really passionate about is getting to know who you are. Spend time with yourself, and the best way to do that is go into Mother Earth, literally into her. Put your feet in her. Now here in the Northeast, it's cold. People tell me, I don't care. Even if it's for 2 minutes, go touch a tree.
Yeah, hug a tree.
Totally get with Mother Earth. Build a campfire in your backyard. Feel the energy of the fire. Go stand by the river. Feel the energy of the water, because that's what's going to wake your soul up. And that's where you're going to hear what you need to hear.
That's beautiful.
Mother Earth will talk to you.
Beautiful. So do you have any events or anything that are coming up that you'd like to bring people's attention to?
I just would like them all to come over and join Making the Spiritual Practical on Facebook. It's my free Facebook group. I am teaching in there. I am sharing wisdom every day. I wake up, I do live videos, I do goodnight videos, I teach in the interim, and I'm pulling a really heavy client load. So hopefully in 2018, I can just break off a little bit from that and do some webinars and do some workshops. And I'd love to travel and meet people. Because here's my whole thing. Like, I want to have a workshop retreat where we're in the woods. We're in this like cabin. I can see the fireplace. I need a fire and I need some red wine in my glass. And we can sit around and we can just retreat till the cows come home. That's the way I roll.
Sign me up, girl. I'll be signing up for your Facebook group. I love that. And so all of you who are interested in going to Veronica's site, it's veronicadrake.com, and it's a lovely site, very angelic and nice photos. Yeah, and I just appreciate so much your willingness to come on the show and share your experience and your awakening and your awesome badassness.
Thank you.
And I hope to stay in touch. Have a wonderful day. Okay, take care.
Bye, everybody.